Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel, August 5th, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. For some reason, the Google Hangout application on YouTube was not recognizing my microphone for some reason, and I had to go back and reboot the entire computer. And then it seemed that Google was having some type of, I don't know, it just said internal failure. So that could possibly be a problem that we're going through right now with, once again, solar wind impacting the Earth. And this is definitely going to create internet problems. You know, you have the power outages. We've been through this whole scenario over and over again. It has basically become part of our everyday life. But yet, once again, nobody says anything about it. It is just going to become a part of our everyday life. And I don't know if you could sense the frustration in my voice today, but there is a lot of frustration in my voice because, ladies and gentlemen, I am sick and tired of being lied to. I don't know about you, but I'm telling you how I feel. I am sick and tired of these world governments, these space agencies lying through their stinking teeth about what is occurring. And just hours ago, myself and the doctor were going through some images on the stereo 195 angstrom extreme ultraviolet light imaging from the Stereocraft. Lo and behold, we find objects zipping by the lower part of the sun this time. Objects that are the size of the Earth. The size of the Earth? 7,915 miles. 7,915 miles in diameter. The size of the sun? 865,000 miles in diameter. So when you look at a scale comparison of the sun and the Earth kind of looks like a small little dot. And we're going to show you all of this, and you can make up your own mind. The fact of the matter is, these objects that we're going to show you, they are the size of Earth or slightly bigger. They're enveloped in either gas clouds or dust clouds or a combination of both. I'm also going to share with you an email that I received yesterday morning from NASA. They finally answered me for once. And then they lied through their damn teeth, telling me what these objects were. They referred to them as cosmic rays. And then they emailed me back again, giving me a couple of links that I should look at. And as I looked at those links, awful suspicious how now all of a sudden the photographs that I sent them in the morning asking the questions about now appear on the Stereo website. Boy, isn't that just a coincidence? You know, and yesterday, folks, that situation just got me so mad because they wanted me to believe that these spherical objects that are the size of the Earth or bigger were particles. Particles. Well, those particles are almost 8,000 miles in diameter. Those are pretty damn big particles. Yeah. Anyways, good afternoon, doctor. How are you?
Good afternoon, Scott. I'm very well, thank you. And you?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little frustrated today.
Yes, I can understand it. I mean, I had the same problem when I started saying that NASA was lying about the SDO eclipse. And of course, no one wanted to believe me because they all thought that NASA was, of course, very honest about everything. And now we have proof that they are lying. They are lying about just about everything.
Yeah, it's come to the point where, I don't know. I just wanted to prove a point to myself today and yesterday.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because it's become so obvious that these objects are there close to the sun, and yet they keep on lying and lying about them. And their lies are getting more and more preposterous, I think.
Yeah, preposterous is just that. And in the email, and I'm going to share all of this with you folks. In the second email that was sent back to me, it mentioned helium. Helium. Doctor, what relationship is helium related to these small stellar cores or brown dwarf stars? Is there a relation with helium?
Yes, there is. There's probably helium in the clouds, especially if they are small brown dwarf stars, because there would have been helium, possibly helium core white dwarfs that then cooled down and became brown dwarf stars. But I think what NASA was mentioning was helium nuclei, because the sun's plasma is made out of mainly hydrogen nuclei or protons, electrons, and they are some helium nuclei. And basically they are saying that this is due to cosmic rays. So basically this would be helium nuclei traveling at high speeds. They're also called alpha particles. But it's quite clear when we look at the images that you have that these objects have structure. And a cosmic ray would basically be a white streak or a white dot without structure. But these objects have gray structure, different tones of gray around it and black sometimes. So they're actually three-dimensional particles. That is quite clear. And the fact that NASA wants us to believe that these are cosmic rays is, like I said before, just preposterous. I don't understand how they can expect anybody of any scientific understanding to respect them when they are saying things like that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that, I told her in the initial email that I was an earth space science teacher and that my students were making observations on some stereo imaging, and they wanted to know what these objects were. Excuse me. And I asked her if she could please help me out. Hours later, the email came back. And it was short. Like I said, folks, I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share the email with you. And after I stroked her ego by thanking her and saying, "Oh, I thank you very much. I know that you're so busy, blah, 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 blah." Then she sent me another email back a short while later. And in that email came the two links for me to go and look at these pictures of cosmic rays, basically what she told me. So why wouldn't you include those links in your first email? I'll tell you why she didn't include those links in the first email. Is because I sent her two photographs of what I was talking about with yellow arrows pointing these objects out, therefore giving her enough time to put those pictures back up on the stereo site. Cosmic rays, no way. I know what a cosmic ray looks like as it is streaking past, whether it be on the coronagraphs or the stereo imaging. I have been doing this way too long, and it is an insult, blasphemy, to to flat out lie. We're talking about objects, ladies and gentlemen, that are almost or greater than 8,000 miles in diameter. Do you realize the size of these objects and how many there are? Today and yesterday, they were congregated around the bottom of the sun. Just the bottom. I've got over 36 images to show all of you. You make the decision on what you're seeing. I'm madder than hell today.
Yes, I'm not too happy about it. And it's very clear from the images that these objects are sometimes directly connected to the solar surface and to the corona. You cannot place them at where stereo A is when they are clearly connected by plasma to the sun. And that, again, is quite clear in these images.
Now, I shared my screen with everybody. Hope you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my email yesterday. Now, the reason why I clicked on her name over here, where you can see me rolling my cursor around, is so that you could see who I was emailing. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, listen, don't blow this woman's email up, even though I know these scumbag, disgusting, filthy trolls will probably blow this woman's email up and drive her insane, but maybe she knows a few of them. But as you can see, I sent the email and I pointed out the objects. I just sent her 2 pictures. That's it. 2. These are the lime green 195 angstrom extreme ultraviolet light imaging. Her response, well, this is the second email that she sent me. It states, just in case you are interested, particle here usually means a proton or occasionally something heavier, like a helium nucleus. Holy God, a nucleus 8,000 miles in diameter. That is one big particle. Doctor, what do you have to say about that? You're a particle physicist.
Yes, it's just ridiculous. Now, what she meant was that there were particles streaming by Stereo A, the spacecraft, and some of them were impacting the detector. But then these would leave streaks or white dots like cosmic rays. And it's quite clear that these objects that we see there are in the sun's corona, and therefore as large as you say they are. When we compare the size of these objects with the sun, and the Earth is about 100 times smaller than the sun. So, and these objects are about 100 times smaller than the sun as well. So these objects are about the same size as the Earth, or sometimes even larger, sometimes a little smaller, but they are about the same size as the Earth. And because they are in the sun's corona, they are not where the spacecraft is, which is Earth's orbit, but at another angle in the orbit. A bit behind the sun. These are not particles. A particle is a fundamental constituent of matter. It's very small. It's 10 to the minus 15 meters. That's the size of a nucleus. And these objects are many, I mean, orders of magnitude larger than that. So these are astronomical objects, not particles. Definitely. So this is just ridiculous that they expect us to believe whatever they say, even though it doesn't make any sense. Of course, we are not NASA worshippers. Maybe teachers would say, oh, if NASA says so, then, you know, it has to be so. But I think I have gone way beyond that stage. Even some of my colleagues said to me, "Oh, you should email NASA and ask them what they think." And by then already knew that they were lying so badly that I didn't bother. But I must say that was quite brave of you to actually do that.
Oh, I email them all the time.
Good.
Oh, they know. I just happen to use a different email address that I've had for some time.
Yes.
Hey, you want to trick me? I'll trick you right back.
Yes.
I'm an eye for an eye kind of guy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this. Let's get into it. Right here, you're looking at a scale model of the sun, the earth, and the moon. You probably can't even see the moon on your screens. This is the earth. You can see very clearly it's about a speck. The moon, I can barely see it on my computer screen, and I have a large screen. Let's zoom in. Let's look at the size. Just look at it. Now that we have a perspective of what the earth looks like compared to the sun and also the moon, let's move on. Doctor, I believe you showed this once before. Sorry, this is pixelizing a little bit, but this is going to give you a perspective of the size of the planets compared to the size of the sun.
Yes.
The sun being 1.4 million kilometers or 865,000 miles in diameter. Pay attention to the size of the earth where my cursor is, the size of Mars, the size of Venus, the size of Mercury. The rest of the planets, we don't even need to talk about. Let's move on now that we have our perspective. Now, I'm going to go backwards in these photographs. I have not touched these photographs. I have not adjusted contrast, nothing. You can see the date stamp on the bottom. These are coming from stereo, 195 angstrom, extreme ultraviolet imaging. Now, myself and the doctor, we caught this, we don't even know what the hell this is. This just looks completely insane, whatever it is. But it is there at 19:05:30 on August 5th, 2017.
Yeah, Scott, I just want to mention that if it wasn't for the cloud-like material, which is obviously plasma around this object, it could have been mistaken for a cosmic ray. But because of the structure around it, you can clearly see there's plasma around this object. And I think what it may be is a plasma connection between two of these objects. They do connect to each other. They cluster around each other because they absorb energy off each other. You know, they connect to each other magnetically as well as to the sun. So this is probably what we're seeing here. You know, if it wasn't for all that cloud material around it, we could say it's a cosmic ray. But because of it, it's not. This object is very close to the sun, enveloped in plasma.
Well, let's just adjust some lighting here a little bit, and
you can clearly see the structure around it. Look at that. Clearly not. Yeah, and it seems to be almost elliptical. The line, it reminds you of a Birkeland current. So it looks like a plasma discharge between the two objects.
I'm going to go backwards. Well, actually, I'm going to go in order with these photographs. Now, once again, I'm going to zoom in to these objects. I've not touched any of these photographs. They have not been altered in any way whatsoever.
Yeah. Again, you see here, this one is clearly connected to the sun's plasma because the corona continues on to touch this object. So it's connected to the sun's corona. So it has to be where the sun's corona is.
Okay, doctor. So whenever you're looking at this photograph
Yes.
and that object, and I'll put my cursor right by it so everybody can see. Whenever you gauge the size of the sun and you gauge the size of that object, where do you put the size of that object?
Well, it's actually larger than the Earth. If we take into account the round structure around it, which, as you know, these are basically, well, they became white dwarf stars at a certain stage in their development, and then they became dark. Obviously, when they come into the solar system, they seem to be dark. And remember, we talked about the Hinode objects. They were definitely dark when they approached the sun. And then after a while of being close to the sun, they start being able to emit light. So we see these now have bright centers. And from that, I would say that they're starting to emit light from the core. So they've been around the sun for quite a while. Definitely, I would say longer than 6 months. And they are now able to emit light from the core. They don't have dark cores anymore. They are brighter in their centers than in the cloud around it. And that circular structure around them, that's the envelope. White dwarfs are known to have this envelope. And don't forget, most white dwarfs, in fact, it is thought that all of them, but now I think not all of them are about the size of the Earth. And that's exactly what these objects, the size of these objects as well.
Now let's talk about this photograph right here. This is clearly a plasma connection.
Yes.
This is the base of the sun, ladies and gentlemen, the base of the sun.
That's right.
Listen, don't take my pictures as your own evidence. You go to the Stereo website, you pull up this information, and you watch it live yourself. But we're going to do that.
Yes.
I'm going to show you the video right from the Stereo website. We're going to slow it down. I'm going to show you where these objects are coming from. And it seems over the last 48 hours, they are all coming up, it seems like, from the base of the sun. I hate to use the terminology, but in the way that we see it, it looks like they're coming up from the south.
Yeah, so this is actually one of these objects, and this one still looks darker. It doesn't seem to be emitting as much light as those other ones, but there's definitely, it looks like it's drawing plasma. This is what they do from the sun. So there's that plasma connection between it and the sun. And of course, if there's a plasma connection between this object and the surface of the sun, the object has to be where the sun is, not where the stereo spacecraft is. So it's ridiculous that that NASA would claim that these objects are due to cosmic rays. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that anybody that has any training in solar physics would actually spout things like that out of their mouths.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's unbelievable. It's obvious they are lying because they must know better, Scott. They must know better. They are lying to an unbelievable level. And it does make me angry as well.
Oh, it's got me fired up today. I mean, you know, I took it with a grain of salt yesterday, but the more and more I thought about it, and the more and more I think about, well, I'll be honest, you know, the more and more I think about the world population, the more and more I think about everything that is going on, and the more and more I think about the people that are trying to cover this up, it inflames me.
Yes.
It makes me so mad that, you know, we entrust these space agencies, we entrust governments
Yeah.
I don't. I do not. I refuse to trust any of them. I refuse to believe a damn word that they say.
Yeah. And I also found it extremely difficult to understand how they could tell everybody that the SDO so-called eclipse was due to an eclipse, when it was obvious from the jagged edge you get at the edge of the sun that it was not. From the beginning, I thought there's no way this is due to an eclipse. And yet trained astronomers look at it and say, oh, it must be due to an eclipse because NASA says so. So that's when I first found out that they were obviously lying. And now we have more and more evidence of that fact.
Here you go. Here's another one.
Yes, this is an amazing object. Look again, the core of the object is obviously emitting light. And then there's a little bit, sort of a circular structure around it that's dark. That would be the envelope. It's emitting light from the core, and then there's a larger cloud-like material around it. You can see it's green, so it's emitting ultraviolet light because this is the 195 ultraviolet imager. And as you can see, it's plasma. Only plasma would emit this kind of light, and it's very close to the sun's corona. So it's definitely plasma similar to what we see around the sun and is around this object. It's quite amazing.
You know, I just want to give a big shout out to one of my subscribers, RN Kim. Hey, listen, girl, I love you to death. You know, I know that you've been with me and in a lot of these videos and in our live chat. I really appreciate what you've just done. RN Kim has dropped a $20 donation,
yes,
in the till, and that's very appreciative. And for all of you that listened to my live stream this morning, you know, it was very emotional, came directly from my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to bullshit you. I am not here to, you know, just run a game on you. We are clearly looking at factual evidence. Factual evidence. Our sun is being invaded by these objects. Not just one, hundreds probably. You know, I invest a lot of time into finding the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at it. So we are looking at a lot of these objects passing by, possibly even orbiting our sun in very tight orbits, therefore creating massive disturbances on the Earth. You're going to see today the backside of the sun, and you're going to see what is occurring, what we can't see from other imaging such as the SDO. And you're going to see later on in this broadcast, we're going to take a look at the sunspot rolling around towards us on the left side of it. You're going to see coronal holes opening up in front of your eyes in that 48-hour time, that 48-hour time loop. Where are these objects? They're right there in that vicinity. You're also going to see that when these objects come in contact with the sun reacts. When the sun reacts, it causes major interference with the stereo spacecraft that you are watching these images. That is where these are coming from. You will see the interaction between all of these objects, the sun and the spacecraft. You're looking at it. Here's a pretty impressive one right here.
Wow, look at that. That's amazing. This one seems to be even larger, but again, you know what this could be? This could actually be a cluster, because you see a very bright one in the middle, and then you see a couple of bright spots around it. And like I said before, remember, these objects cluster around each other because they connect to the sun. They also connect to each other. So this could be a cluster of them, you know.
Well, there's no
Quite
doubt about it.
interesting.
You know, another big shout out to Todd M. You know, thank you very much for the donation. Really, really appreciate it. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, as I mentioned earlier this morning in my live stream, you know, we all may not know each other. We may never meet each other. We may never sit down and break bread, have a drink, whatever. But I want all of you to know that each and every day that I plug away and that the doctor continues with her research, plugging away hour after hour, day after day, you know, we're doing this for everyone, including ourselves and our families and all of yours, because we want the damn truth. We deserve to have the right to at least prepare ourselves, whether it be prepare our households and our family, or prepare ourselves spiritually with our own minds, giving ourselves an opportunity to come to peace with all of this. And the deceit and the deception is real. It is as real as it gets. We're looking straight down the barrel of these little monsters in our inner solar system, invading our sun. It is real.
Mm-hmm.
You call it whatever you want. You want to call it Nibiru, call it Nibiru. You want to call it Planet X, Wormwood. You call it whatever you want to call it. The fact of the matter is, these objects are here. They are invading our sun. And the sun is reacting. It's almost like the sun is trying to fight for its own life. Now, let's keep moving forward. Let's take a look at these little monsters.
Mm-hmm. You can see that little one looks like it has two cores in it. You know, two bright spots. So that could be a binary. And don't forget that these objects were once full-size stars with large amounts of gas around it, layers of gas like our sun has. And then when they run low on energy, they become red giants. And I believe now that what happens is the ionization layer sinks down inside the star, moves towards the core, and then the star starts expanding and letting go of its outer gaseous layers. So these tiny objects are extremely powerful, because you have to remember what they were. They were once stars. And the magnetic field that they have is even stronger at this stage because of conservation of angular momentum. As they lose their layers of gas, they get smaller, spin faster, and the magnetic field increases. So the magnetic effect on the sun is extremely strong. And this is why we actually see the sun moving. And I think we'll see it in some of the videos. The sun seems to be moving up and down and from side to side, and the corona is fluctuating strongly. This is the effect that these objects are having on the sun.
I just want to say something real quick. Yeah. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, everybody that is in the live feed right now, I value your opinion on what you're seeing. So let's take a few minutes. Let's drop some comments in the live chat and give me your opinions on what you are seeing. Remember, I'm just going to back this up a little bit so you can see the size of the sun, the size of that object. You tell me in your own words what you think that object is. Do you think that object is a particle? Do you think that object is a camera artifact? Do you think that object is a remnant of a cosmic ray? I mean, I'm just blown away by the email that was returned by the NASA official. I see Sandra said, well, who said it was a spaceship? Oh, Brandon Vaughn. It's a spaceship. You know what, buddy? I wish to hell it was a spaceship. I would be much more happier if I knew for a fact that was a spaceship. I wish it was. But the fact of the matter is, they're not. And once again, we have another similar photograph. Again, right
Yes.
at the fringe of the sun's corona.
That's right. Yeah. And you can see the color of the cloud around this object is the same color as the corona. So that means it's basically the same kind of material. There's no way a cosmic ray could produce this effect. There is no way. A cosmic ray would just look like a white streak or a white dot. Cosmic ray, don't forget, is a particle. It's a fast-moving particle. It's relativistic, moving at least 1/3 the speed of light. But it's tiny, and when it impacts a detector, it can leave a streak. But there's no way that this is due to a cosmic ray. There is no way a cosmic ray would produce this kind of signature with the kind of plasma effect that we have in the sun's corona. That's impossible.
So I'm going to move forward here in a few of these photographs because I was actually going, oops, there we go.
Yeah.
This one is clearly enveloped on the outer fringes of the corona.
Yes. Yeah. Do you know what that looks like to me? It looks like a larger one with a dark core. You can see the cloud around. You can see the hole in the cloud, and it's dark inside it. And to me, that looks like a large core, and then below that we get the white core. So that would be one that has been around longer, the one further out from the corona. So it looks like actually two of them together, a larger core and a small core that has gained the ability to emit light. So it's quite amazing to see the structure of these objects and how they attach themselves to each other. It's just fascinating, actually.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. You know, what they're doing to the sun is what concerns me the most.
Yes, that is not a good thing at all, because what is happening is these objects are drawing energy from the sun, drawing plasma from the sun, and they may prematurely send the sun into its own aging process, which would see it perhaps go through a red giant phase. But these objects are drawing energy so fast from it that even going through a red giant phase, it might be accelerated. Basically, they're turning the sun into a brown dwarf star. And eventually this is what we will have, and we will have a whole lot of brown dwarf stars right here, because they've invaded our sun and they're drawing energy from it, and they will continue to do so until all the objects have reached equilibrium. So until they all have exactly the same energy. And there seems to be so many of them, many thousands of them, that have invaded the sun. The sun's corona is now totally saturated with these objects, basically, in the many images that I have seen, in the X-ray images that I've shown in some of my articles. And I will write another one using your images and maybe putting in some of my own X-ray images. And it shows that there are so many. Sometimes I look at just a small portion of the sun, say at about 5 o'clock, and I would see 6 of them right up against the surface of the sun in the X-ray images. And so there are so many, Scott.
Now, you know, I want to mention something. RN Kim, she has a very, very, very good point. And Kim, thank you very much for mentioning this. But she just left a comment, and her comment states, it could only be a particle if it is in close proximity to the satellite, meaning the stereo satellite.
That's right.
She just wanted you to address it. And she goes further on to state that there needs to be a correlation between different times as objects move in space to calculate that size. And she's right. If these objects were right, very, very close to the camera systems on the stereo, then we could possibly define these as particles. But when they are enveloped in the corona of the sun, or right on the outer fringe of the corona, then they are truly not
That's right.
close to the proximity of the stereo craft, correct?
That's right. Now, the only way you would see a particle in the detector is if the particle impacts the detector. Because don't forget, these particles are extremely small. They are about 10 to the minus 15 meters in size. That is a 0 point followed by 14 zeros and then a number.
My God.
This is how small a nucleus is. This is how small these particles would be. So the only way they can be seen by the detector is if they impact the detector. They then actually interact with the material that the detector is made out of. And then a photon is produced. So this is the only way that we would be able to see them. So it's not even close to the detector. It has to go inside the detector for it to be detected. So these objects, we can place them where the sun is because they're obviously connected by plasma to the sun.
Yeah, I think we might have to recruit Kim. She's very smart. That was an absolutely phenomenal question and statement. Scotty Hall out there in the chat mentioned, what about comets breaking up and causing this type of scenery that we're seeing? But I don't believe that the comets would be able to get this close to the sun. I've seen comet divers, sun divers, and the sun just destroys them way before they come into this close proximity of the sun, correct?
That's right, Scott. Don't forget that comets are also much smaller. And even if we had a comet that was the size of the Earth, it would not survive being in the sun's corona. We see these objects go right into the sun's corona, go right through the corona. Don't forget, the sun's corona is at a temperature of between 1 and 3 million degrees Kelvin. The temperature inside our planet, where we have liquid magma, is at 5,700 Kelvin. It is about the same temperature as the photosphere in the sun, but the corona is much hotter. And at that temperature, you don't only get liquid magma, or the Earth would not just turn into liquid magma. It would then, after turning into liquid, actually turn into plasma itself. And it would then be absorbed by the sun's corona. It would become a part of it. So no object, this is why the comets are destroyed no matter what their size is. If the Earth was to go into the sun's corona, the same thing would happen to the Earth. It would be absorbed. So these objects survive being in the sun's corona, survive going right through it, survive sometimes going to quite close to the Earth, to the sun's surface, and they connect to the surface. Sometimes we see them actually drawing plasma, just like white dwarf stars would do from a main sequence star. And so these objects are at home in the sun's corona. Why are they at home in the sun's corona? Because it's the environment that they are created to be in. These are stars. They're stellar cores. They're extremely dense. What is left, they are what is left of a core. That's why I also call them stellar remnants. So once a star has gone through its life, and it has aged to the point where it has become dark, we could call it a dead star, except they're not completely dead, because they can rejuvenate and emit light once more if they come close to a star like our sun, where they can draw energy and plasma. Then the core becomes surrounded by a layer of plasma, and this plasma is ionized by the core of the star once again, and it churns and produces the kind of tornadoes and chaotic motion that we see on the surface of a star once more, except they're very small, because they get only a thin layer of this material around its core, which they then ionize. Oh my goodness, I just saw one there.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm doing, I'm sorry, Doctor, what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, I've just blown this up for you, so you're able to actually watch these objects passing by. I would say about 90% of them seem to be very close to the base of the sun today. Now, a few days ago, whenever I was documenting these objects, a lot of them were to the upper 1 o'clock position of the sun, and I also caught one that was directly above the sun. It's very hard to get your distance perspective, but you can clearly see that a lot of these objects are either in the corona of the sun or on the outer fringe. You can actually see them moving in the time-lapse video. And this is coming directly from the Stereo website. You can go there yourself and you can start checking this out. Slow the motion down. You may have to go step by step. And if any of you don't know how to do that, let me just show you right here. At the bottom of your viewer, you have your video controls. Reload the image, which you won't have to do once it starts. You can start it, you can stop it, you can make it go faster, slower, and then when you want to stop it, you just hit the button step. And what that does is that takes you frame by frame. Whenever you hit the click the step button, it takes you frame by frame, and then you could zoom into the object and take a screenshot of it. Now, I use that screenshot program, Snagit. It's a very, very good program, especially for what we do. And you're able to quickly document these objects quickly. Label them, put them in a file, and there you go. You have your evidence. So we would like for all of you, we know that you're on board with us. We know that you're listening to the information. But now it's time for all of us to become Planet X researchers. If you have the time, and you want to learn, I'll help you. We all have YouTube channels. Let's make these videos, folks. Let's make them. Let's get them up on YouTube. Let's start creating this massive network of undeniable evidence. Cosmic rays, my ass. I'm sorry. Folks, I know what cosmic rays look like when they streak past the coronagraph. They have a long, long, thin white streak. They don't look like this.
No.
Even though NASA has put it up on their Stereo website that these can possibly be cosmic ray artifacts. Oh, God. They're not. You can clearly see the objects are enveloped in their own individual gas cloud or dust cloud. You can see that they are going towards the sun's corona. They are in the sun's corona. You can see that the sun is reacting because in this imaging, the sun's corona is all pixelated, meaning it's reacting. And this is what the detectors and the stereo cameras, they are feeling the effects. So therefore, the pixelization of the sun's corona is being caused by the stereo camera. Other than that, if there wasn't anything near the sun like this, you would have a nice smooth corona around the sun, no matter which angstrom that you were in viewing this. They're everywhere. They're everywhere near the base of the sun today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, this is solid evidence once again that, you know, we're dealing with something here. We're dealing with a very, very serious situation. That's the way I think. I don't know about everybody else, but I think this is a very serious situation, because let me go ahead and pan down here now that we've seen enough of these little monsters. And
And Scott, I just wanted to say, you remember that I've written several articles about the use of cutoff lines in the SDO images. So I think that they've been using these cutoff lines to hide these objects. So these are the objects that they are trying to hide with these cutoff lines. And we're now seeing them. So this is amazing. I'm so glad we are actually seeing the objects.
Now, I've sped this up a little bit, and I blew it up, you know, big enough so you guys can see this more clearly on your monitor, your television set. And it's truly amazing to watch these objects moving around, around at the base of the sun. To me, they all seem to be going pretty much kind of in the same direction. And they're zipping around there pretty good.
Oh, yes. They seem to move extremely fast for such small objects. They must be very energetic.
Well, I mean, you know, being close to the sun, it's their energy source.
Yes.
I could only imagine the particles. Well, you're more intelligent when it comes to that.
Well, I could calculate it, but they seem to actually be moving very fast. It would be much better if we had images closer together. But sometimes they, what are they, 15 minutes apart, these
yeah,
images?
about 15-minute increments in the imaging.
Yeah, so.
You know what? We're going to go ahead and jump over, and we're going to take another quick look at 304 here. Oops. Now, this is what I was talking about, ladies and gentlemen. When you're looking at the sun's corona here, you can see the objects. The sun's corona is completely pixelized. The reason why it's pixelized is because these objects are moving by. There is an interference that is being created by the sun against the stereo imaging, because other than that, you would not see the sun's corona around the outer part of the sun. You would see it would be smooth, not completely pixelated like this.
Yes, this shows the fluctuation in the corona. And I first noticed this in the 2007 images from Stereo B, when that large stellar core traversed the sun. And I saw some fluctuation there as it traversed the sun. So now we're seeing very wild fluctuation, very fast fluctuation, I think. So that's because the number of these objects has greatly increased in 10 years.
Oh, there's no doubt they greatly increased. Now they're everywhere. We're picking them up constantly. You know, a few people in the live chat asked, what about Earth? You know, what's happening? What will happen to Earth based on what we're seeing?
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, just to quickly answer that, and then Doc, you could jump in there. I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are already seeing the effects of what is happening. And then, you know, I had a few people email me and inbox me a Weather Channel report from the Weather Channel on television today, talking about this massive cold front coming down from the North Pole through Canada, impacting 2/3 of the United States. We are in the middle of the summer, August, one of the hottest months in the United States during summer, and the temperatures are going to be 25 degrees colder than normal. Not just 5 degrees, 25.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? That tells you that the Earth is wobbling severely.
Mm-hmm.
The way I try to explain it today was just take a viewpoint of the Earth like you were looking at it from outer space. Use Google Earth. Center the Google Earth model where the equator is pretty well straight across along the horizon. Then tilt the Earth back about an inch or two. And then you will clearly see how these weather patterns from the North Pole and the north of Canada can sink all the way into the United States and drop the temperature 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Doctor, what do you think?
Well, I think that the Earth is wobbling and it's getting more and more severe. And I also have estimated the speed at which these objects are moving. And it's about 2.5 thousand miles per second. If they can get 1/3 across the radius of the sun, say in 15 minutes.
Now, one of our subscribers, one of the viewers, just mentioned, what about the heat wave in Europe? We have a massive cold front getting ready to pound the United States in the dead of summer, and Europe is experiencing a heat wave. What does that say?
Yeah, that's true, Scott. That means that's the weather is going crazy, of course, because of the Earth wobble. But not only that, because the high magnetic fields that these objects have brought into the solar system and the large fluctuations that we are seeing in the sun is, of course, impacting the whole solar system. And we know already that all the planets started warming up many years ago. And that effect seems to be getting stronger and stronger because we seem to have more and more of these objects arriving. So the effects will be getting stronger. So that means more of a wobble, more ionization of our ionosphere, more induced currents in the atmosphere, and that produces increased rotation of any weather pattern we may have, which of course makes its effects a lot stronger. So if we were supposed to get 100 km/h winds in some kind of a depression, a weather pattern, then we might now be getting 150 km/h winds. That sort of thing would be happening. So the weather would become more and more severe. And then the oceans would warm up more and more because we get more and more volcanic eruptions on the surface, at the bottom of the ocean, on the ocean floor, And that would cause even more severe weather, because as the ocean warms up, the air above the ocean warms up, we would get more evaporation. We are definitely getting more cosmic rays. I don't think they're necessarily coming from outside the solar system, although the sun is getting weaker because they are draining. But I actually looked, there was some research that showed that the sun's magnetic field started increasing about 100 years ago. And that may have been the effect of these objects starting to come inside the solar system. Don't forget, the solar system is huge. It's 100 AU in radius. So this could have been when it started happening. So the sun's magnetic field is not necessarily weaker. It may actually have strengthened, but the effect of these objects is such that it impacts the Earth in such a way that we would get more induced currents and therefore stronger effects inside the Earth, in the ionosphere, and so on. And then, of course, the fact that the sun is aging, and as I mentioned before, it seems that stars, when they start aging, seem to have more difficulty holding on to their surface plasma. So that means that the sun would be allowing its plasma to accelerate outwards into space more easily than before. And that would mean that CMEs would be getting stronger. And we may even get stronger solar flares. And this we've seen happening already. And
I'm sorry, go ahead. Let's talk about these flares and these CMEs, because I have the imaging up here.
Yes.
The current imaging for the SDO, the 48-hour loop, and we're looking right down the barrel of this sunspot.
That's right. Yeah, it does look like it has spread out a little bit, which would weaken the magnetic field, because the closer these magnetic field lines are to each other, the stronger the intensity of the magnetic field, and the more likely we are of getting reconnections, and therefore CMEs and solar flares. However, we still have the problem that the sun is weaker, and as I mentioned before, it is easier for it to erupt with a strong CME. So hopefully we won't get one that's Earth-facing, but there is still the possibility that it will happen, and that will have, as you know, extreme effects on our magnetosphere. If it's, we may get a kill shot sometime, hopefully not this time, but there will be more sunspots that will eventually face Earth, and the sun seems to be having, you know, or suffering the repercussions of having all these objects drawing on its plasma and its energy. And yeah, the Earth is definitely being affected and will continue to be affected, and I think the effects will get stronger.
Now let's talk about this sunspot, because ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the next 3 to 5 days, we're going to be staring right down the barrel of this sunspot. It does seem to be decaying somewhat, but the fact of the matter is, it still has the potential to produce a massive CME. I mean, we see clearly what is occurring, and something that is drawing my attention, and it has been for the last 2 days, is just pay attention to this large dark region where I am circling it with my cursor.
Yeah, it looks like there's, it may be a coronal hole opening up right next to the sunspot. We do see other coronal holes all over the sun, like the one at the north.
Holes. You want to see coronal holes? We're going to take a look at it. I'm glad you mentioned that, because on the back side, or on the left side of the sun, as it rotates towards us, meaning that sunspot. So let's take a look
at the size of that. And of course, the coronal hole is also a sign of these objects being close to the sun, because it's a result of the magnetic connections between the sun and these objects with their very high magnetic fields. And the fact that sunspots are more eruptive may be caused by the same thing, because these objects pull on the sun's magnetic field lines, draws the magnetic field lines outward so that they close at where the object is, rather than just making a loop and going back into the surface of the sun. They actually open up and then close at the position where the object is. Don't forget, magnetic field lines have to form closed loops. So if they open up at the surface of the sun, like we are told we have at coronal holes, they have to close somewhere. And they close inside these objects, which have very strong magnetic fields. So both a more eruptive sunspot group and coronal holes are caused by these magnetic effects.
I just want to show everybody something very quickly. I'm going to try and stop this right where, okay, right here, folks. We see the large sunspot. We see the activity. You're watching very closely right here and right here, these two coronal holes opening up simultaneously as the sun rotates towards the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now over in this area that we're looking at here, because we're looking at a different perspective of the sun now. We're looking front facing, Earth to sun. The other imaging we were looking at, we were actually looking at the back side of the sun. We saw all of the objects coming from this direction up here. Look what's happening to the sun.
Yeah.
Right here. So this is exactly what the doctor is telling you. This is exactly what she's explaining, and this is exactly what is occurring. Now, I'll let this in motion again. As it rotates, I want you to watch very closely this area as these coronal holes open right in front of your eyes and directly in correlation with those objects that were coming up from down here, moving across this way. Because now you're looking at the front face of the sun from Earth. Before, you were looking at the back side. So whatever was on the right will now be on the left. Let's watch it. Happening right in front of your eyes.
Wow. Yes, you can clearly see them opening up and getting larger.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're also going to know or notice that you're going to see the sun jump a little bit. You're going to see the sun wobble a little bit. And there's plenty of scientific evidence that scientists have been looking at for a long, long time, and they agree that the sun has a wobble. That is some of the ways they detect planets way, way in deep, deep space. They look for the star to wobble a little bit. Our own sun has a wobble, but this is not what I'm talking about. That wobble that scientists look at is so minute, but what we're looking at is 48 hours of the sun. Okay, it's going by very, very quickly. So that disturbance of the sun, that wobbling, that jerking motion seems to be more prominent because of the speed of the video. But if you slowed that down and you took it frame by frame, like the doctor does whenever she analyzes all of the frames, which takes hours, then you can clearly see the motion that we're detecting right now. And that is not a camera adjustment. When the camera spins all the way around, okay, that's the craft repositioning itself. We know that. Over the course of the last 2 weeks, I've been detecting this jumping around, this movement on the sun.
Yeah.
Is it possible? Yes, it is very possible.
Yes, but what it signifies is quite amazing, Scott, because don't forget that all the planets in the solar system are supposed to be well, I think it's magnetically connected to the sun. So if the sun is to move in any direction, the planets are supposed to move with it. But what we are seeing now is the sun moving with respect to planet Earth. And that has huge repercussions. What does that tell us? It tells us that the sun is no longer, or the planets are no longer magnetically connected just to the sun. In other words, the center of this planetary system is not just the sun anymore. It is all these objects as well that have come in and have joined the nucleus of this planetary system. So the nucleus of this planetary system is now defined by not just the sun, but all these other objects. And therefore, we can now see the sun move with respect to the center of the planetary system, and therefore move with respect to the planets. Because for us to see the sun move up and down like we do, it has to be moving with respect to the Earth. So this has amazing, as far as I'm concerned, what it means to the fundamental effects that these objects are having on our planetary system. It's just mind-boggling, to tell you the truth.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
To me, this is a mind-boggling effect, and you know that the sun is moving. Look at that; it just moved.
Yeah, I mean, we go through the mind-boggling effect each and every day.
I know.
Trying to decipher what we're observing, and folks, over the course of the next 5 days, we're going to be looking at this sunspot. The only thing that we can really do is to hope and pray that, there's no CME that comes directly from this sunspot. Hopefully it decays and dies out, and that would be absolutely fantastic. Once again, we would dodge another bullet, basically. But it is amazing to look at. And as I mentioned earlier this morning in my live stream, it's like a double-edged sword. You're going to just slide down and get cut on both sides. But it is truly amazing in a scientific way to see what is happening. If you're into that, me, I'm more of like a scientific investigator. And no man or woman on the face of this planet has ever witnessed or experienced what we're seeing. Truly a historical event of some sort, not the kind of historical event that you want to go through, but truly amazing to see what is happening. And we all hope and pray that we eventually live straight through it and it all just goes away. But that's not reality, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not reality. The fact of the matter is, it's like we are under siege right now, almost like a slow death. Mm. Things are happening each and every day around this world, but they're extreme. It's just not a freak weather pattern here or there. Everybody on this planet, in one way or another, is being affected by all of this. Whether it's extreme heat or very cold temperatures, unseasonable. It's either floods, hail the size of baseballs, extreme heavy downpours of rain, extreme lightning, like what was reported over in India the other day, maxing 42 people killed, injured by lightning strikes. The numbers are rising as far as things being extreme. We are witnessing it. We're living it. You know, yesterday when Jeff P. was on and we started talking about the biblical prophecy and the information that he's been researching for a long time, the doctor she's been doing the same for a long time. She knows a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things that we just need to pay attention to. Everything. We cannot discount anything at this time. It would be wrong to do that.
Yeah.
Doctor, you want to add anything to what Jeff P. was talking about yesterday? I mean, I know we talked a little bit about it today. Very, very controversial.
Yes.
Some people don't want to talk about it. Some people want to hear about it. But, I mean, let's just face it. It's there.
Yes. Well, Scott, I've been looking at it since 2011 and looking at the prophecies and studying the book of Revelation. I know that in the book of Revelation, it talks about the sign, which is the woman who gives birth, and talks about the red dragon. And to tell you the truth, the red dragon to me is quite significant because we have now, and we were looking at the sky last night and we were seeing how red it is. And this is how my observation started from the beginning, is I noticed how red the sky is. But now it's getting redder and redder. And we are seeing the red in the sky earlier and earlier before sunset. So to me, that seems to indicate that there's an object that is emitting red light and it's getting closer or brighter, either closer to the earth or it's getting brighter and brighter, still emitting red light. So to me, mentioning the red dragon and this light in the sky, I sort of start putting the two together. So they do mention that this does happen, that Jupiter is in Virgo inside the woman, and it comes out on September 23rd. Now, don't forget that this happens sort of every 12 years. So what we would need in addition to that is a red object in the sky. And of course, the powers that be are trying to hide the fact that this object may be in the sky. But yet the red skies tell us that there is something there. So there may be something to this September 23rd this year. I think the last one was 12 years ago, so that would have been in 2005. But then I don't think the skies were as red as they are now, and this object may not have been as obvious. So yeah, I do believe that something might happen. I cannot be sure. I don't like setting dates because the Bible does say that no man would know the day of the hour of the resurrection. So I don't like to set dates, but I do think that something might happen. I also think that the fact that these objects are here, they have, one of their purposes is to tell these people that think they are gods. They think they can control the Earth's population. They think they can control what everybody thinks. And these objects are telling them one thing: you are not gods. God, the creator, who created these objects, have engineered an event that is happening in our solar system right now that they can do nothing about. They can try and hide it from us, but nowadays they're even not getting that right either, because we are seeing right through it.
That's true.
So these people are not gods, and God is showing them who is God. He is God, and he is in control. And our hope is that he is coming back and that he is going to set everything straight. The Bible does say that when during the millennium that there would be no sun and no moon, and he himself would be the light on earth. So that's possibly what's going to happen. Our sun is going to cease to emit the light that it now does.
How many days of darkness?
I'm not sure. I mean, we may get a certain time of darkness, because the Bible speaks in Joel 2:31, I think, of the sun becoming black as sackcloth and the moon becoming like blood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did put that in my total eclipse video. And I think that what would happen was that a very large object would come between the Earth and the sun and eclipse the sun. And at the same time, the moon would be illuminated by this red object that is in the sky. So to me, it would take two of them for that to happen. I don't know how many days that would be for. The sun could be eclipsed for a long time. But what I'm saying now is our sun is being drained of energy, and eventually it will become dark. It will not emit light.
Do you see what's happening on your screen right now?
Yes, it's going dark right now. Oh my goodness.
Just as we take it, all of a sudden the SDO imaging
Yes.
is having a glitch right in front of our eyes.
Yes.
We're gonna move off of here. And I just want to take a quick look and show everybody the GOES X-ray imaging of the sun. We look at it quite frequently on this channel because, I mean, this is what we do. These are the only tools that we have to see what is happening. I'm going to go ahead and get this feed started real quick. We'll expand this just a little bit. And here, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the GOES 13 satellite. This is basically like an X-ray of the sun. And even in this X-ray imaging right now, you're going to see the sun shaking back and forth. Ever so slightly on this loop, you can clearly see the sun is shaking back and forth. Slight movement.
Yes, I just saw it, Scott.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that proves that it's not the satellites, because we have two different satellites showing the sun shaking.
Yep. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got two different satellites, one by NOAA, one by NASA, and yeah, maybe they're talking to each other and saying, hey, let's shake our cameras at the same damn time.
No. I've known since October last year. I realized that the sun must be moving, and the movement is getting more and more dramatic. So it's definitely moving, which means that it's no longer just the sun that is the primary star in the solar system. There is a whole system now at the nucleus of this planetary system. And the planets are now attached to the group, not just to the sun anymore.
Exactly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now on the last imaging that we looked at, remember I was showing you the two coronal holes opening on the left side over here. Now taking a look at the X-ray imaging from the GOES 13 satellite, now you can clearly see what I was talking about, because whenever you look at this X-ray imaging, you're going to see exactly what's happening with the corona of the sun. You can see the massive opening. I mean, you're looking at possibly more than 25% of the sun. Almost all of what is facing us there was one big, massive coronal hole. It's staring you right in the face. And then you wonder why we're having issues for a year now related to the ultraviolet index. Sky high.
That's right, Scott. Because
why?
These coronal holes open up the sun to such an extent that we have fast-moving particles coming out and streaming out. And because the coronal holes are getting larger and larger, and the sun is having more and more difficulty holding on to its plasma, especially, and they all spiral through these the magnetic field lines that are straight out from the sun's surface. So we're getting faster and faster particles, and therefore more and more intense cosmic rays coming from the sun itself. And these are impacting our atmosphere, and they're causing effects on us, because the moment these cosmic rays impact our atmosphere, neutrons will be produced, and as well as other particles. The neutrons will get to the surface. Neutrons are extremely damaging to living organisms. So we are getting impacted by high radiation due to these cosmic rays. And so it's better to stay. And the further north you go, closer to the poles, the worse it will be, because most of these particles will spiral and head along magnetic field lines and head to the poles. So whatever you do, stay away from the poles, and don't spend a lot of time sun tanning, because it's not safe to suntan anymore, because of the high radiation that we are getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to blister your skin, folks. I mean,
Not only that, Scott, it will actually, literally, it will destroy your cells. And when enough cells are destroyed, you get cancer, or you start getting organ failure, because some of the organs will not be able to keep up with replacing these cells.
Well, yes, what I was getting at is just a little bit of exposure of the sun, depending on your skin and so on and so forth. It will start to blister very rapidly.
Yes.
I was a victim of it myself, showing the doctor earlier today.
Yes.
How both of my arms, from my elbow up to my shoulder, just from being in my car and having my sunroof open, which is pretty stupid, but it blistered with little tiny little blisters all over my skin, almost like sun poisoning. And all I was doing was driving in my car for a 30-minute period. That's it. You know, and I'm like olive skin complected, you know, so I don't have pure white skin, but it got me. It got me, and all of the blisters are just popping, and it's very itchy. And I went through it last year also, and I was working outside 10 to 12 hours a day, and literally wore long sleeve shirts in extreme high temperatures, drinking over a gallon of water a day. But as you can see, what we're looking at right here, folks, we're looking at the solar wind prediction model. And I mean, you can see that yesterday and going into today, we were hit with a solar stream. And we have another one coming, as it's predicting, impacting close to the 9th, several days from now. That's going to be pretty close to the time that this sunspot, which has been renamed now AR 2670, because it made a full rotation around the sun, they renumber it. So we're looking at, once again, you know, going into a solar stream, wind stream here, that's going to impact between the 8th, 9th, and 10th. And as the doctor has stated many, many times before, that this continues for days afterwards. After this impact occurs, you know, the earthquake situation, the volcanic situation, the crazy weather, that starts to impact a few days later. But we will have direct effects, you know, immediately.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point, Scott, that I think we're getting impacted all the time. There are always coronal holes facing us, and we don't actually get measurements of the cosmic rays that are constantly impacting our atmosphere on a continuous basis. I think in June there were some reports that cosmic radiation had increased by 13% in California and by 19% on the East Coast somewhere. And this was already quite some weeks ago. I think it continues to increase. So a 13% is, in my opinion, catastrophic.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I saw the same report came out a few weeks ago. They've been keeping track of it, and the numbers are kind of steady, which is alarming.
Mm.
But ladies and gentlemen, we just want to bring you this information as we get it coming in. And the doctor has been very busy. We would have been holding many, many more live streams with information, but she was very diligent in getting this first book done. And she has finished her book, 10 chapters, and it's going to be pretty intriguing. And hey, I'm going to be quite honest with you, man. It's going to bust a few people up. And there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be upset. They're going to be mad. And, God only knows what will happen after that. But the fact of the matter is, these people should have came clean. They should have told the damn truth and not mess with the world population. We're human beings, okay? We're human beings. This is our planet. We have the right to know. No matter what the circumstances are, we have the right to know. So therefore, myself and the doctor, we are going to continue in our endeavors to blow the whistle, whatever you want to call it. I don't really like that term, whistleblower. That should be a person whose conscience got to them. And therefore they decided to do the right thing and tell people about it. And as I mentioned in my live stream earlier today, you're persecuted for what you do. You're persecuted for bringing the truth to people who have the right to know it. I mentioned in our live stream, or my live stream this morning, about Jesus Christ. I mean, persecuted from his first breath on this planet till they took the last breath out of him. Why? Because he was the best teacher mankind ever had. They persecuted him every minute of his life. He was a living, breathing man. He spoke the truth. He taught people, and they persecuted him, and they murdered him for just that. And not very many people refer to the death of Jesus Christ as being outright persecution and murder, because that's what they did to him. They murdered that man. They murdered that man for bringing people together, educating them, and telling the truth. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just, don't get mad at me, but I'm taking the religious point out of this for a second. Because Jesus Christ could have been any man, not just the Son of God. He could have been any man speaking the truth, spreading the word, educating people, and they killed him for that. So does everybody understand where I'm going from this point? Over 2,000 years ago, that occurred. And here we are today in the year 2017, and it is still occurring. Have we made any progress other than technology? Have we made any progress as human beings? Where some human beings persecute you and kill you and murder you and take your last breath for telling the truth, spreading the word, and educating people. They murder you. The point that I'm trying to make, the doctor is taking a massive risk in writing this book. We are even going to take higher risks when we start speaking publicly. If any of you think that it's a game, it's not. People that know too much and that speak, well, there's been a whole long list of these people who took their last breath and paid for it with their life. So this is just not some YouTube game. It's just not some YouTube live stream. It's real life. We're taking a huge risk. But just so each and every one of you know, we're not just doing this for ourselves, because that doesn't make any sense. If you clearly step back and you see what we are trying to do, you'll understand. And you already understand because you're here, right here. And I'm very, very happy that so many people are joining us and they're getting the information out there. But you have to first understand what you're seeing. And the doctor does a fantastic job of breaking this down in layman's terms so all of us wannabe scientists can understand it. We don't have any time in our lives, folks, to be scared of what is occurring. We don't have that time. We just need to understand what is happening, so therefore understanding will give us the brain power to protect ourselves in whatever way we can. I'm very, very, very grateful for each and every one of you, because together we must form some type of network. I was going to refer to it as an army, but I'm not down with that military stuff. So I'll use the word network. That's basically what we all need to become. And it's pretty cool that we have YouTube and we can connect with everybody around the world. Well, almost everybody. Excuse me. Because we know the censorship. I just got an email today from YouTube congratulating me on racking up 14 million views in the course of 1 year. Wow. It's a big milestone for me. I jumped up and down and I did backflips. Uh-oh. Did the power just go out?
Oh no.
No?
No, it's still on, Scott.
Okay. All righty there, ladies and gentlemen. I just got freaked out really, really bad because the lamp in my office just burned out. And
Okay.
I just thought the power went out. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, the sky had just turned black a little while ago. And, you know, we had a pretty wild storm whip through yesterday. The skies, they ended up turning pink and orange, and this big hole opened up in the clouds, and the doctor was making some observations, and so was I, and it was like you were on another planet. So I kind of got freaked out there for a second. The light in my lamp just burned out, and the whole room went pitch black. So I thought I faded to black there for a second.
Yeah.
But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, getting back to what I was talking about, you know, once we start these public speaking engagements, you know, hey, listen, man, the gloves are off. We're going bare knuckle, baby. Because there's not going to be anybody there to censor us. We're not going to have to follow YouTube policy, rules, and regulations, and blah, blah, blah. We're going to be in the United States of America, supposedly the land of the free, where you have rights. One of them is freedom of speech. And we're going to get up there on that stage, and we're going to talk, and we're going to discuss what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not going to be anybody there to put their hand over our mouth. We're going to be putting together a 2-hour presentation. The doctor is going to take the audience straight through her observations from the very beginning to where we're at now. And you can guarantee that there's going to be new evidence that comes up every day. So as we make our way on this tour of public speaking, things are going to change, and there's going to be new information coming out probably daily like it is now. And we hope that we can get to every major city and then some. This is what I'm going to do with the rest of the life that I have. That decision's already been made. The doctor's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at some point in time, I don't know, maybe there was this internal light that is now very, very powerful, and this is what I'm going to do.
Mm.
Doctor, how do you feel about that?
Well, Scott, I'm in it way above my head, as you know. I believe this is my mission in life. And well, there are two things that Jesus said that I would like to say at this time. First of all, it goes along with what you said about the truth. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." So he was the truth. He is the truth. And however, on earth, unfortunately, because of what Adam did, we have an entity who is the father of lies. And Jesus said about him, he comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But then he added, but I have come that they, meaning us, may have life and have it more abundantly. So he allowed himself to be killed so he can give us this life and give it to us more abundantly. And just think about it. He doesn't just want to give us life. He wants to give it to us more abundantly.
I agree. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone through a tremendous amount of information once again. I hope each and every one of you, had a chance to soak it all up. I know it's always a lot of information. Doctor, I thank you very much for, once again, spending the time with us and allowing your beautiful mind and your education and taking everything that you've been through, and now you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing all of your knowledge and your passion and your heart to come on board and help each and every one of us.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and cut our live feed right now. And we're going to be back tomorrow. You can guarantee. Yesterday in my conversation with Jeff P., Jeff's going to have some spare time coming up because Jeff's got a very busy schedule and a family to take care of. But he did mention to me that this upcoming week, he's going to have some time, and we're going to delve into more of the spiritual side and the biblical prophecy side of what is occurring, its direct correlation. I know there are tens of thousands of people out there that want to hear this information, that want to know about it. Jeff's worked very, very hard on it, and I believe the doctor is she's going to probably prepare some information on this also. So I would advise each and every one of you to make sure that you stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not subscribed to our channel, make sure you subscribe. Share the information with others on Twitter or Facebook. Share the videos, share the live streams. Send them to your friends or your family members in an inbox message. Send them the link. Tell them, hey, listen, maybe you ought to take an hour or so and sit down and watch this. And for all of you that have stepped on board with the physicists' reports and that are now reporting on your own YouTube channels, my hat's off to you. Love you to death. You're all doing a great job. Over the course of the last couple of days, it's been a little overwhelming for me because I'm reading the emails that come in with the transactions and requests for the reports. They don't just say, hey, give me report number 1 or 5 or whatever. 90% of them come attached with some pretty deep thoughts. And very touching, I must say. Very touching. I read a couple of them that, they actually gave me a lump in my throat. I'm not that much of a softie, but it was wonderful to read the information that was contained in the request for those reports from the doctor, and how now these people, these individuals, these human beings on this planet are now jumping on board, and they're showing a tremendous amount of bravery and also love, I have to say. That was some of the key things that were said in a lot of these emails that came in over the course of the last several days. Once again, very touching comments from a lot of you. And I appreciate it 100%. I know the doctor does also.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to keep on going. We cannot just sit still and be steamrolled. It's just not in the human being nature. Doctor, any last words?
Well, just thank you again. It's good to tell people the truth, to stand for the truth, and to stand with the side that wins in the end.
Yes, I would have to agree. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end our live feed for this Saturday evening. You can guarantee that we'll be back tomorrow, and there will probably be more information to report on. That much you can guarantee. We are truly living in, as they say, the sign of the times. And I also truly believe that we are seeing the signs in the heavens up above, because that's where all of our observations are being made.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with both of us. very, very, very thankful for all of you being here. Let's spread the word. Let's get the word out there. That's the best we can do for right now. This is Scott from Planet X News and the Nibiru channel with our rogue physicist. We both thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. Take care, and we'll see you soon.